Hey, so if you're thinking of doing an Airbnb, short-term investment, long-term investment, in this video, we just did a long conversation with myself, one of my longtime friends, and somebody who reached out to me because I've done long-term rentals, I've done short-term rentals, and responded to some inquiries that I was helping somebody out with some Airbnb. So if you're interested to hear a behind-the-scenes conversation between myself and Antoine, then stay tuned all the way to the end. We start talking about a lot of different options, things that you often don't get to hear. And so, yeah, stay to the end and check it out.
And then, the amenities that come with the property. We both have the means and the know-how to erect the property, whether it's 1,200 square feet, 1,000 square foot, or a two-story, however we want to get to. I want to go small, not a big investment, maybe stay at the 150 mark, and then because he and I can handle that if we had to make a payment on it going in, and be on it. For me, I'll be 50 this year, and it's kind of a long term type deal. So
Yeah,
I'm like, okay, 10 years, we can pay it, we're applying what we make, and we both, we can pay it off, and then, an exit out of it, we can sell and take the profit on the property, right? 7 to 10 years.
yeah. I mean, so what questions, would you have specifically when you're thinking about like
So,
process? Is it the
and
money? Is it the investment?
yeah, the process of getting set up with Airbnb, and I say Airbnb, I know there's other models out there,
Sure.
but that seems to be the first top of mind platform to go to for anybody I know that's like, hey, yeah, I went to the beach, I did Airbnb, or hey, I went there Airbnb. So to me, in my circle, Airbnb is the go-to.
Yeah.
And I don't have experience. So this call is just basically a short, what's your experience with it? And I know from the blog or the post or response, reviews are critical.
Huge, right?
But financially, what does that look like? I know they say they take 10 to 14% per total cost. Like if it's $1,000 for the week or whatever it may be,
Yeah.
they're taking $140 or $150 off top.
Yeah, I mean, basically, and I could look up my revenue and tell you, like, there's a lot of people that might be like, I know that exact number, but they do take a percentage, but also that some of that percentage includes taxes and stuff like that. So
Okay.
their fee itself is not a big deal. Like, what would you say, nominal? Like it's insignificant to me
Okay.
due to marketing and such like that. And the bigger thing for me, so it's almost like Airbnb became the new Xerox, so it's almost like its own word. If you say, I'm going to go Xerox that, that it
Right.
means you go pick a
Yeah.
copy. So if I'm on Airbnb, we know it's a short term, usually a vacation rental. And so like VRBO would be another platform that
Right.
if they integrate together. But so when it comes to the Airbnb platform, I just want to share this with you that like when I got my insurance for that property, they kind of they not minus the word kind of, they required that I use a company like Airbnb or VRBO specifically because
Okay.
they also carry extra insurance. And so while they take some fees, there's a lot of benefit, that and in your comfort level because short-term people can screw up your house fast.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because now you have furniture, you have maintenance stuff, you have um, all the stuff you've put in. You know what I mean?
Right.
I threw away a couple towels the other day for the first time, but I threw away a couple towels. So there's an ongoing, whatever. But if they mess up things, so that's really just helpful to know that their fees are the marketing and then the insurance. And then like when I sell things online, I pay 3% to Stripe. or whatever your payment collection is. So they're
Yeah.
also processing the payment and managing all of that. And
Yeah.
so that's something that, your point of sale system basically. And so, so all of these things start to add up where some people are like, oh my gosh, I'm paying that fee, but doing a lot of marketing, just like we know it costs money to do marketing.
Right.
And so I like that. Um, and I find value. If I didn't find the value, I wouldn't do it, so
Yeah.
being number one and all the things that they do. When it comes to the money though, you do have to factor that in to be like, am I gonna get the money back for it? I feel like when I look
Yeah.
at people bring money, it's driving me crazy.
Yeah. And expect, just on the research I've been seeing, those rentals have been going about, or I say Airbnbs, in the Canaan snowshoe, I call Valley,
Yeah.
um, about 25 weeks out of the year.
Okay.
And that's basically starting from optimal time, obviously January through probably March here, up to March.
Yeah, that's right.
But
Season.
sprinkling, what's that?
There's no season anymore. As far
Yeah, yeah. So I say if I get 20 weeks out of it, and I'm doing, let's say I do get $1,000 out of it, you know,
each week or over 20 weeks? Each
each
week
week,
or
each week.
yeah.
Let's say a week, and it's $1,000 a week, and that 20,000 can go a long way as far as covering the principal payment, insurance, and everything else.
Okay.
So by the time I'm year 3, 4, I've I'm hopefully have broken even if we applied everything to principal. And this is, again, a long term, the exit, if you want to, at 7 or 10, somewhere in there, depends on, I guess, how good it's getting.
Yeah.
But also as a tax, advantage for me, it's its own LLC. It's not losing money. It's, so that's my thought. I just wanted to talk to somebody that I know that can and trust that can, hey, you know, this is the big pitfall to look out for on it.
Yeah, I mean, if you can get that money, I think my question is, there's some things that you have to think about. Are people doing weekly rentals? Are they doing, you know,
They're doing a little bit of both. If I went, I filtered through a couple, and Barber was one of them. I filtered through, and mostly they start off advertising by weeks, but then you divide, take 5 days, and if you come in for from Friday to Sunday, it's kind of like, hey, I just might as well pay for the week because I'm paying, you know, the days are almost doubled it just for a weekend.
right?
You find it a lot up around the Deep Creek area. It's a little bit more pricier because they're able to do the ski and they have the lake.
Yeah.
So that's more of a yearly. And we thought about doing it up there, but the land, oh my gosh, it's ridiculous. It's just, Loudoun County just picked up and moved up there.
Yeah.
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 So that acquisition cost is not something I want to look at. Down in the valley of the hills, of West Virginia here, a little bit cheaper, even though it's
How saturated is it?
what's that?
How saturated is it?
It's not. It's just you have people that don't want to. You'll find your pockets of where people want to sell their land because one, they're old. It's in an estate. The kids don't want to deal with it, or someone's ready to retire and they have 200 acres and they need additional income, or they need to find somewhere to get income because they've retired. They've lived there their whole life. That's just, they'll deal with, hey, I've sold that 20 acres over there, but that 20 acres might have paid me 300,000.
Right.
And
Yeah.
that's just a number I've thrown out, um, but it's really popping up over there. And a couple things that are happening in the valley, I call from Snowshoe up to Deep Creek, is that, believe it or not, Elon Musk is going to put a plant over there. It's not really public size. He's going to put some kind of Tesla battery type plant. Sorry, something's going over there. I looked at some permits and did some research, and then called the county guys. Like, how'd you figure it out? This it's like, well, you just got to know where to look and see where it's coming from.
Right, sure.
But one of his companies that's coming in there, and it's going to bring about 200 employees.
That's
Uh,
good.
and these are high caliber folks that spend lots of money. These aren't just kind of field guys.
Right.
Um, there's a couple other. The corridor H is being completed. So in the next 5 years, you can go from Ohio to Stevens City on a 4-lane highway all the
Oh,
way
okay. I
through.
got you.
So you're going to have a lot more traffic and opportunity to capture a clientele or someone who wants to, hey, I want to stay at Snowshoe. I want to go to Canaan or Deep Creek, or so the area is really going to. It's already popped, but I think it's going to hit again. I think it's going to be another numbers wise incline of selling of real estate, whether it's raw land. What's popular there now is people just clearing off, and you can bring your pull behind, your fifth wheel, park. There's security, internet.
Like the RV parks.
Yeah, yeah. And if you can find, and some places have where they're putting in full bathrooms, shower stalls, you come in, it's kind of wild if you drive through and you're paying attention. I've seen it in the past, I'd say 2 years,
Mhm.
um, that people just RV parks and the fly fishing and fishing. So people are there. People are driving through.
Yeah.
Um, and you start to see more mom and pop. I won't say mom and pop, but high end few restaurants coming.
Okay, that's good. Things to
Yeah,
do.
and gas stations. Those people don't put it there without knowing that it's coming and doing their
Right.
own research.
That
So
they're gonna
I'm
come.
seeing a lot of that come around. And you look at zoning and looking at every now and then I look at the permits, and seeing what's happening before they even break ground.
Right. Yeah.
So, but I'm not in your tax bracket. I'm in the lower one. So I just getting started.
Well, I mean, this is our first short-term rental, and I leaned into asking questions about, what are you charging? What are you charging? Like even today, I reached out to my super host who's a friend, and I'm like, hey, did you do, smart pricing here? Because the system will go out and look at the pricing. For us, when you talk about the investment and stuff like that, when we bought this property, we got it at a good price.
Yeah,
The renovation costs were higher than we anticipated. And, you know, could we have cut some corners here and there? Yeah, but was it worth it? This and that, like in this, I mean, if I'm being honest, in this area, we basically brought something down to a shell and rebuilt it. So for us, when we think about the Airbnb model, it's kind of like we're in the middle of, we're playing the appreciation and the Airbnb to pay for it during the appreciation, like you said, of a market that is a little bit more rare to find, and this area is
yeah,
kind of in a gentrification. And like we're talking about, like there's traffic that's like, oh, hey, we can come here. There's more restaurants coming. The town is kind of improving
yeah,
in a lot of capacity, whether it's restaurants, whether it's roads, whether it's better people in the Chamber of Commerce, so for us, just sharing, my input, I was kind of like, wanting to see the profit. But I think that from an investment perspective, we've got a little bit too much improvements for a 2-bedroom, 1 bath, but the place is great. And that's where the reviews come in, that we can be like, if we can squeeze a little bit more here and there, then it can make sense,
Right.
to get the money back. So are you talking about buying something existing or building? Because
Building prefab brand new.
that's what I thought you were saying. So
Yeah.
I would just say, and you're smart, you do loans. I would just say, watch those numbers.
Yeah.
Because they can creep in today's cost easily.
Yeah. And there's a builder, there's a couple of prefabs
I'm gonna move.
recently here, but go ahead.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, there's a couple prefabs. There's one in North Carolina that we really like, and we're thinking about just making a quick day trip down there, and just putting our eyes on it and seeing, prefab. We got the means to excavating, driveway, foundation, and then bringing it in, putting the well. We have another associate friend that's his family business, is putting wells in. So we figure we got all the parts that can make a home, or let's say home or house. Um, it's just a matter of, you know, those intangibles that we don't know. And, one of them is me reaching out and like, hey, Kim, what's your thought? And
Yeah. I mean,
that was it. That's,
yeah. I mean, when, the difference is, of course, you have the cleaning fee, right? Honestly,
yeah,
there's the cleaning and the supplies that go with it. So, but some people will call that a pass-through cost. Whatever it's going to cost for you to get a cleaning. So, you might want to do an investigation of, that, because
yeah,
in the cost that people pay, the cleaning fee cost is in there. And then, so for like mine, it's 125, 150. And so while I get one sum from them, there's a
yeah,
portion that goes here and there's a portion that goes there. So just, you could do some research and just be like, what does that look like that's going to cost? Because if you have 4 weeks and you're paying $150 each time, that's $600 right there.
I know. I was doing that back. I was like, man, it does that. So we might net, even if we don't owe anything, we don't have any overhead, we might net $400.
So, you know what I mean? So it's really just be aware of the numbers. So that was something that I was like, oh, well, if I can get this, and, just like you, I mean, I was thinking that we would get a certain number, but I'm not a full year in on this property yet. And so
Okay.
I need to go back and look. So, getting that money off season is really nice, and you have to really cut your price to get it. You know what I'm saying? And you have to have a really nice property. So what's going to be, to me, this is my input, what's going to make your property different
I know.
than any
Yeah.
of the other ones? Well, you're going to have new, you know what I mean? If you have
Yeah.
like a little bit of quality, if you have a better view. And so I always, when any property that I look at, I always look at something that's not commoditized, to say like, well, even if it's just like, I have privacy or I'm renovated,
Yeah.
there's always that one little thing that, how it is when you go buy something. If I'm looking at a neighbor or I'm looking at trees, if it's just simply that. So when you're picking places, I would keep that in mind, because if you're off season, that can make the difference of profit. So for
Yeah.
us, we have direct water views. We're new. We have undercover parking. So people that come in with motorcycles, or people that come in with whatever, they have an open bed for the truck and they bring crap and they want to, have
Right. Right.
covered. Those things are appealing. So it's that, to me, it's that off season that will make the difference of our profits or not, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that,
Another thing, my Eric, he's a cool guy. He's smart engineer. And he was, we were talking about like, okay, let's say we go 2 to 3 weeks and no one's there, you know, do we personally have the time, or someone that we can, hey, you know, run up to the cabin, check on it, put eyes, make sure no barrier broke in. Well, of course we have cameras, but make sure
right.
things aren't overtaking the property, that we're, we're trying to upkeep, and then prepping. Weather is a big thing, keeping it clean. Leaves go, dirt comes, rain. So a lot of those things come with owning it. We were throwing that around. We were assigning which wife was going to go and go up there and stay a night and come back and things like that.
Yeah, well, that's where that, and I'm just kind of looking at, some of the reports that, so the good thing is like Airbnb, they have good data,
Yeah,
and so I can go back and be like, okay, if I were to genuinely look at, and I'm just gonna, and this is all this. I'm just like, I haven't done some of my numbers. I'm like, okay, I need to look at what I have. And not that it's a matter, but I'm looking at the off season. And then so for one of my couple months, there's a service fee. And so out of a $5,614 income, I paid $173 as a service fee. But if you look at this one, which is like the customer pays 448. I'm getting, in this example, 104 for 3 nights. The cleaning fee is 150. The service fee, the math says like 3.5, 4%, my quick observation. And so then that's $448. And so out of that 448, like I said, I have to give 150. So that percentage really, hey, it's this percentage of the total that they pay. What I
right.
mean? So like if I advertise that I'm gonna offer it for 104 a night, they are still paying a couple of these other things.
Gotcha.
We do 3 night minimum, so you might want to do like a 4 or a 5, but you should be prepared in any investment. For me,
Yeah.
carrying it easily for 3 to 6 months without.
Yeah, and that's the other thing that we're looking at is, you know,
And that doesn't feel good, but it is what it is.
no, but we're like, okay, well, suppose we're not getting, we got, he and we both fly fish, we both fish, or, our wives, my wife's not a big camper, but he's a big camper. They go to the mountains in that geographic area. They more so go hit lakes than they do straight the snow resort areas.
Yeah,
Um, so we could potentially get use out of it and over time, but life changes. We are getting older. I'm older. I'm almost an empty nester and have the time and
right.
so. But yeah, that's just trying to get a good feel on it.
Yeah. I mean, and that's where it goes into, is it something that you would use? So for
Yeah,
example, I just did the math, we're missing most of August. We have it booked up, and we're of course on the water. So like our season kind of goes from, like they would say, really from like May to Labor Day. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, yeah.
But I had long bookings in February. I had a 30-day booking, and then I had
Wow.
back. So in the off season, we still did pretty good because it's new. It has water view. We have, like you said, there's Dahlgren nearby. There's these random people. Like this one lady was like working in Maryland, and she came in for nursing, and she's like, oh my gosh, they had carjackings, and I don't know the
Wow.
name, but just the 301 bridge and something else. And she's like, I don't want to be there, so she would come
Yeah.
back and forth, and it was within 30 minutes, but she was willing to do it because she had a nice place to stay. It was new, it was
Right.
cute, it was
It's
whatever.
safe. Felt
Yeah.
safe and
So yeah, so I'm missing, for me, um like I think we're booked like up until August 5. So if you called the rest of August, all of September, then the better part of October. So let's just call it 3 solid months that we don't have a rental. And we're 6,000 short of what our carry costs are.
right.
Now those renovation costs are 12,000 of that.
Wow.
So the renovation for us, but it's all math. It's all math.
Right.
So, so for us, like then you have that cleaning fee.
Yeah.
And so the cleaning fee though, let's just say that you have an average of 4 cleaning fees a month. Or 3, let's say 3. That's, 3 times 12, right? That's 36 times 150. That's $5,400 right there.
Yeah.
So even though it's a pass through, it comes out of my total.
Right.
So just remember, I think that's part of the math that I don't know. I mean, it's still our first season, but that's part of the math that I was like, I need to get a hold of that because
But do you offset that by saying, "Hey, I will work and do myself, but your time is money, and
right, right.
your time in getting supplies. Heck, I can go spend $100 in supplies every time I need to clean."
Yeah, I mean, it's the supplies aren't that much, but they need to be factored. So,
Right.
for example, I just renegotiated the cost for cleaning because out here, they're like, they just feel like they can, well, let's just say that there's a 2-bedroom, 1 bath, 800 square foot Airbnb that we have. And I'm paying more in cleaning fees than my house in Leesburg.
Wow.
And that's, of course they do some stuff. They make the beds, they have to wipe out refrigerators, they have to do a full cleaning. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But still, I'm like, and we don't have them do everything at the other house, so, but it's still much bigger. So it's kind of like for you,
Yeah, I don't know a cleaning service because, anyone around, it would, I imagine that they're there because there's Airbnb, it's a resort area, and there's naturally Airbnb, there's rentals.
yeah.
Uh, and that's something I haven't looked into, but what do you do for security? Like,
Again, it's a pass-through cost, but when you look at the totals, just
yeah,
remember that there's a chunk of that. And so just to come back to the do it yourself, I just told Patrick, I'm like, we're across the street. And I told the gal, I was like, well, what if we, uh, you know, not that I want to do this. I haven't, my daughter was like, I've never seen you mop, you know, but it's 800 square feet and I've been coming behind these people and they're leaving it in great shape. And I'm just like, if we do the linens,
yeah,
and the people are good because we're charging just a little bit more,
yeah,
because we can with, then what if I cut that in half, you
right,
know, for
right,
the first couple of years? Or, I talked to my other gal, she's like, well, because it's right here, I can do that. Or I can find somebody, um, and then you can pay for half of that. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? So, but I told the lady, like, I look at my calendar, I'm like, these days, I'm 100% not doing it because I have check in and check out the same day.
yeah.
If I
Ooh,
have like 4 days in between that I can just grab the laundry and wipe some stuff down
yeah.
and run a mop over something that's not dirty, but we put like the little things out, the lotion. And so I bought a box of that. It was $160, and
Really? Okay.
you have to do a budget for, have you ever stocked a house?
No.
So you have the couch and the beds and the this and that. And we
Yeah.
did like 3 grand, but we already had the couch, the 2 chairs. I got the table at an antique shop and it was heavy
TV.
duty. Wasn't worried. I mean, it's like solid wood with a solid bench, so there's no
Yeah.
staining. We have LVP floors. And, you know, um, but when we bought our stuff, it looks cute. People are going to look
Yeah.
at the pictures and they're going to look at their reviews and they're going to look at the location. That's
Yeah.
what people are going to
I'd
do.
rather kind of invest in something like to get them there. I'd rather have a line of people saying, no, I want it, and that demand is there versus going cheap or going bare minimum. And they're like, pass through. I wouldn't be able to sleep. I'd rather sleep, spend the money, have the demand, and have it there and have great reviews versus, oh, the bid sucked, or
Beds.
yeah, or the couches were horrible. And I'd rather no, and barely get by, because then you have someone like me who's looking for, I'm cheapo. I'm looking for like, well, it's just the bed. I'll bring something extra blanket, lay down. Sometimes
Right.
I do things like that. My wife she gets upset, but
Yeah.
I'm getting
Well, yeah, you have to think about that. And so just remember that, and you probably already did, but there is the cost to stock it. So you do have to just
yeah,
make a budget for that upfront cost. I think I was 3 grand, like I already said that, but that included, like the stock of the towels, because you have to have an owner's closet or cabinets, like
right,
we were very tight on space. Washer and dryer, is that something that you want to allow people to do
yeah.
or not,
No, actually, I think I'd rather we talked about that, and we'd rather have it there just because of the distance getting somewhere than getting it back. It could be thrown in the washer and dryer there, or washing things clean there instead of because it's in the mountains. The two metropolitan areas there is probably 45 minutes one way or 30 minutes to one way. So having that there, and I did read some reviews on some, and the houses that do have it, they say it's great to have.
yeah.
Um,
I mean, especially if you're skiing and your stuff is wet, you want
right?
to dry it, or you're like, I only have 3 pairs of socks and I'm
Yeah.
skiing week,
So
you
we
know?
got a we got an eye on a pro. I got an eye on a property that it's close to have to trails. So snowmobile
Oh,
and
right. Right.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. And so I'm kind of I'm ready. I talked to my banker, and he was like, "Put a plan together. Let's do it. Let's see it." He's
Yeah,
all for it. He's an old banker, but um, he's like, "Well, you can just analyze it all you want." And it's kind of like we don't have smart people involved.
right.
You know,
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that I did also is I did reach out to my friend, and because when I was buying, a lot of the stuff was already rented up. And so it's, really looking at the analysis. And like I said, I knew, and some of it's even reminding myself, the first year I kind of needed to undercut the competition, you
yeah,
know, because there's not that many houses here that have a true direct water view. And the ones that are charging more, but they have longer reviews. Now we've got like 14, 13, 12. I don't know what it is, but they're all 5 stars. Everybody loves it. And then you start getting ratings, like you have to respond to them within a couple 24 hours. So somebody needs to be in charge of that.
yeah.
Or the bad reviews can kill you. And
Yeah, that's what I'm nervous about, but we get into this. I'm just kind of like I'm more optimistic and have faith that if we have some, it's something that we can address. We're not going to make it an issue or something. If it is a bad route, it would have been something out of our control,
right.
and whether and a person who's really looking at it, I'm sure, would be like, well, hell, he couldn't help from a tree falling down on the guy's car. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah. I mean, we had a circumstance where, you know, um, we have a neighbor that's very, very particular and likes to claim land that's not technically hers, and people will park parallel. And
Uh,
we tell our guests, here's where you can park and here's the extra parking. But then she had guests that came up to help her get some stuff out because she came in town to help with the baby shower. So she was cooking all this food, loved
yeah,
the kitchen, loved this. Like I met her, super cool. But when her guests came over, they parked their big, huge trucks and blocked both. They could have put two cars in front of it, even the trucks, which they eventually
uh,
did. But one of them pulled up, parked in this space that has a ditch, and it was pouring, raining like today. And so it dug up the thing. And that lady is just, the lady is ridiculous, the other lady. So she was like super cool, like get a great review, but I had to go over there and say, hey, can you move your gigantic truck off of the grass? You
yeah,
know what I mean? Like you would think like they would feel the ditch and they know it's pouring down raining. But she's like, so she wrote like the parking is tricky. So,
Oh,
but that's it. She's still 5-star review. And I tell people now, like, hey, the parking, I had it in the guest book, but I moved the instructions, in the guest book.
yeah,
And so people won't bang you up on that. People will bang you up on cleaning, this,
yeah,
cleaning, dirty bed, pillows that suck. I stayed at a house once when I went to Virginia Tech and we rented this house, and I won't rent another house that somebody else lives in enough that it felt creepy. So
yeah,
like
yeah,
it was just weird staying in a child's bed, even as a solo. Like, you know what I mean? When I'm waking up and I'm looking at
yeah,
garden books and the towels, like, and this might seem weird, but like the towels were like, how if you have older towels and they start to feel like
yeah.
harder in the
Mm-hmm.
and it was like even my mom was like she had everything beautifully laid out and it looked nice, but like I'm like, and I
Yeah,
just bought these other towels. Like I feel like you should have newer, like that's the
yeah.
experience that somebody's just coming there to have a bed.
And the scent and everything makes that. I'm hypersensitive on smell. I'm hypersensitive. We go through towels. Our kids somehow steal our towels, I think, because they stay new.
Our
Or
kids did too.
yeah, yeah, and we're at Marshalls, and there's not a time I don't think we don't come home with one or two towels just because we're replacing. But I'm just so used to it. But when we stay at Airbnb, those are the things I'm looking at. The smell, the cleanness. If there's a note there from the owner, hey, these are reminders and things, little things like that, get you those, uh,
Right.
those reviews. So, but yeah,
Yeah. So we have a guest book, Wi-Fi. So like when we went to that house, like the TV didn't work. Um, and it was weird the way it didn't work because of like it was just weird. It was freezing cold. So there was just an uncomfortable, like it was cool, there was a lot of things cool about it, but to that point, think about that. You can get towels and stuff like that. I'm happy to tell you, like it's like a 12 pack. I thought that they would be cheap. I'm like, I like these towels for me. You don't have to bleach stuff, so the cleaning service is important. Those details, just think about your experience, and it's just good enough that people are like, this is comfortable, I'm good, but you're
yeah,
not paying for $1,000 mattress, because if they stain it or ruin it, so the protectors for everything is super important. So all
yeah,
of that is once you have your house, once you have the furniture, once you go into the maintenance mode, whoever it is that you're hiring, is got to be looking for that kind of stuff and doing it to a standard. We made a
yeah,
guest book. Like I took my time and I tell people, here's the parking. There's a guest book there that's like, here's this and that. Here's our favorite things to do. They really love the guest book. We bought a golf cart. And so we offer it, hey, it's a golf cart town if you have it in a discount. So just think about those kinds of things. So the people that just left, now that it's warmer, people are more interested.
yeah.
And I was like, okay, extra money maker. And when somebody's not using it, we have it for our overflow. And
Right.
somebody wrote, oh, the golf cart is so fun. It's a must have.
Do
So
you
go
do
ahead.
you give them? Sorry to cut you off, but do you give them access to the security ring codes, and do you reset those each?
Oh, yeah, good question. So we were using, and we still have it as a backup. So we have two doors to get into the house, the front door, of course, and then we have a side door. And so until recently, we had keys in the lockbox. And so we would give them the code to the lockbox and then they would get it from the side door, just that's where we put it. And then that would work for both doors. But now we give them a code. uh,
Right. Yeah.
and then the intent is we can control it via Wi-Fi and we can change the code. So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
our plan. So the cleaners will have a code, we have codes, and then we'll rotate it. I mean, most of the people that are coming are from out of state. So it's not like they're gonna come back and open the door. So
Yeah.
I'm not as much sketched about it, but we did change it recently. We did want to be able to access it Wi-Fi, and the same thing for the thermostat.
So one of the, and it just hit me as we were talking this conversation. I sold the house here. The owner lived in Colorado, and and I was driving down the street. It was in my neighborhood, and I saw a moving van. So I was like, man, someone's moving, either moving in or moving out. I'm going to figure it out. And so I knocked on this, and I said, hey, hey, Antoine, I see you. Are you moving in or moving out? Literally, as he was loading stuff on, he was like, I'm moving out. I said, hey, I'm a real estate agent. Are you the homeowner? He was like, yeah. And I said, well, do you have an agent? And he was like, actually, no, I don't. So he's like, hey, when I'm ready, I'll give you a call. He goes, I'm not quite there.
Yeah.
Calls me 2.5 months later. He says, hey, I need an agent. I'm in Colorado. I'm not coming back.
Yeah.
And so, and it was for his daughter. Lovely house, nice house. And I said, okay. I said, he said, what would you sell? I said, I need to get in and take a look. He said, he goes, okay, hold on. Let me change the code. And I was like, wait, he's in Colorado. And he said, I have simplified. I changed the codes because I've had somebody came in for the electric and somebody goes, so I change the codes every time,
Right. The contract
and it
style.
just hit me that, okay, simplify
Yeah.
every time new person, you can give them a new code.
Yeah, you can simplify, and then I have the backup. So for if any reason, I do the same thing with selling the house. I have my central lock and I have a combo. So I have
Yeah.
main source, and then like let's just say the battery dies.
Yeah.
Then they can do this. The cleaning service, same thing. They have a code now. They also have a key, and then the lockbox is there. And so it's a bit simplified. The thermostat was a big
Yeah.
deal because, and one of my girlfriends who also owns an Airbnb out at Lake Anna, like she said that she has it on thermostat, and then somebody was messing with it, and then they started like they wanted to kind of I don't know if I don't remember their goal, if they were like trying to get money back or something. They're like, oh, this wasn't working. And she's like, you do realize that I can see the controls of everything that you were doing, and so
Yeah.
nice try. And so that, and of course we put in all new air systems, so that was another example where we could have cut that cost down by thousands of dollars, but our intent was to keep it. So we went with a nicer quality. So if we ever were like, we want to sell this house that I'm in now, but we want to have that. So think about that when you're building new.
Yeah.
We did
I
a
have
we did a 2, 3, 4 a four, they call it four-way or whatever, mini split.
Yeah. I have
Yeah.
a house. I have a renovation. I'm getting ready to start next week on a house, a 13, it's almost close to 1,400 square foot. I'm getting ready to gut it to the studs, new everything. And I decided to make it, uh, um, I'm going to electric baseboard heaters. Well, no, I decided to go HVAC, not to do electric baseboard heaters, even though it's a third of the cost. But for the fact is, I've shown a lot of houses and talked to home buyers, and it's a turn off when you have little kids. And
Oh, touch it.
yeah, yeah. And so I was like, okay, I'm just going to eat the cost, put new HVAC in because it doesn't have HVAC. It has gas wall heaters, and I'm ripping those out and going to put a new, put a furnace and AC
Yeah.
central unit. I wasn't going to put AC forced air because around here in West Virginia, it's like everybody, oh, I'll just get a window unit. But I was like, no, I'm just going to go ahead and so I don't, when someone says, well, it doesn't have AC. Yes, it does.
Yeah.
Good for C, but I'm willing to eat that. But yeah, I'm on the reno part too. I'm getting ready to start that next week. And it's
That's
just,
for another investment property.
yeah, it's a different investment property. That's a house I well, naturally acquired. It was my wife's first house she bought, and it's been sitting vacant for 2.5 years. And I was like, it can't set any longer. So she was like, what do I do? I said, we gotta renovate. Now granted, I've already renovated 2 houses. And I was like, and I've had that one on the list. I said, we got to sell it. We got to do something. But she's
Okay.
had a couple renters in it just to
Oh,
kind
okay.
of more
Yeah.
so family members that like, hey, I can't find, can I stay yours? And it ends up being no rent, staying for 4 to 6 months. And
Oh, that's
that's a whole nother
a whole
conversation.
story. Yeah.
Um, but it's going to take me I my bank, well, he's going to give me a credit line at 75, but I told him I'll do my best to keep it under 65.
Right.
I was like, but I'm pretty certain I'm going to run into something I'm going to, not accounting for. But he's going to give me
Costs are
60.
higher, unfortunately.
Yeah. And I'll sell probably, since I'll do the loan and list. I mean, I'll probably sell it once, probably 170.
Hmm.
So no brainer.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it'll be back on. Hopefully, I have it by the end of July. Be done. Do kind of go in and do the 60. It's not that big, and it's not hard when you gut it.
Well, that's, yeah, the thing, like we ran into, the, like the joicings, the setup, like they just did stupid stuff. Like until we opened it up, we're like, what? We did not plan. So we ended up putting a new roof. There's a flat roof under it, but we ended up putting I don't think we went over top of it. I can't remember. But we
Yeah,
ended up putting a new roof on because the colors would have been hideous.
yeah,
You know what I
yeah.
mean? It had like a red roof and like,
But
yeah,
your neighbors were happy. They want to look
the
at it.
neighbors are happy, except one of the neighbors wanted to buy it. The same neighbor that liked to complain, that I'm
Right.
just like, sometimes you just can't fix
No, can't fix stupid.
you can't fix stupid. You can't fix people that are just like bent in their ways, or in this case, I think jealous because they
Exactly.
wanted to buy that house. And
Yeah.
that house looks Mac Daddy. If you haven't seen it, we put pilings with the rope
I
around.
remember you putting pictures on. You kind of were documenting your
Yeah,
rehab of it, and
yeah,
I think it was. I don't know. I remember the insulation picture or
yeah,
something. You were putting insulation in. I remember that picture, and that
yeah.
was
Yeah, that was interesting. Yeah, so I think that they were that, so they got jealous because we bought it from the other side neighbor. So it's like, and I'm looking at it. So there's a corner lot right here. So the water is here, corner lot, and then it's across our corner driveway and behind them. So their dad, um, who since passed away, which I think led compounded onto her upset,
yeah,
which I can understand. But he used to keep all kind of crap in the backyard, like two of these big, like enclosed trailers that you pull. Like we have one that's not on property, but you could like pull a car into. He had a
yeah.
couple of those just filled with junk. He had like two boats filled with junk, and he paid like $400 every 6 months. And so they wanted to buy it, but the people on the other side were the ones that inherited the house
Uh,
that
oh,
they keep as a rent, as their
yeah,
own family property. It's been in there 100 years. And then that property, which we had made an offer earlier last year, but she wasn't ready to sell. Then later she was, and then she realized that our pricing was right because it was a dump.
wow,
And so anyway, so we made it look beautiful. Like all the other, like we're like between this house and that
yeah,
one, like we've improved the value of this whole block. And so I think, so then I think she just has jealousy, but it looks really cute and it stands out. Hands down, it stands out, because you make that nautical look,
yeah. But when
but that costs money.
yeah, if you're ready to sell, I'm sure you know the market value of your house.
Yeah,
If something goes bad, you can sell it and get your
right.
money way
That's
better.
right. We can make some money. Would we make like, I mean,
Yeah,
if we
2 years.
could
Once you
pull
get to
out,
2 years, right? So you don't have to pay capital gains.
well, we thought about selling it last year, quite honestly, because it would brand new. Like we're just curious, but we were selling it at a time that I never liked it. There's a couple times that I don't like to list a house, and this was in one of the slow times, and we were like, we only have a short window because we lost a lot of the summer because of Patrick's because of permits, power,
Yeah,
to think about this, like we had to pull 220 on the meter, but it wasn't pulling that before, so we needed a new power service. There was a tree engulfing the telephone pole, and they had said, moving ahead, and the town had said, you can't pull power from the pole to the roof anymore. You have to go underground. Well, the only way they could go underground was to take the tree out. So we didn't have power for 6 weeks.
Oh my gosh.
We had a month extra on the permits. We had 6 weeks of no power, but we were in a place that we didn't need a lot of power until we were at a standstill for about 3 weeks. I mean, obviously you need that to put
Wow.
it back to finish
Yeah.
running all the electrical, which meant we couldn't put the drywall in because we had to, I mean, we did some on generator, but still. So those were months. So by the time we were ready, so when we first bought this property, and it's kind of ridiculous because I literally wrote out a calendar. I was like, okay, we could do all this renovation in a month. And I had each calendar. I'm like,
Sounds like me.
and then we'll have this done in 2 days, and then we'll do this, and then we'll do this. No, the siding took a month. We had to do the roof. We opened up the ceiling and we saw this ridiculous construction. We had to build out a wall because without making the long story shorter or longer, it was just dumb construction. If you had pushed on the front wall, because the roof came down and then the roof was over top of a screen porch. That screen porch is now the dining room and the kitchen. And so
Yeah.
that was on concrete. You stepped into the brick and the cinder block house. So we expanded the entrance so it feels like it's one thing.
And you had to put foundation on all this.
Put in
Wow.
that, raised above the concrete so it wasn't a step up. And then because of the stupid way that they built the front, literally there was, if this is the front wall, they brought the board to here. It didn't even sit on top. And then they brought this over. It was just dumb. So I'm like, we could have, you could have leaned something against it. And so we had to bring it out 14-inch and put in new footers and just.
But if you'd have known this, would you have been like, I don't know about buying this house?
I mean, we might have renegotiated, but
Right?
in here, we kind of, anytime you buy something old, and then
Yeah.
we do the codes here now, this was a small town. It was a second home, summer getaway town, and people built stuff with popsicle sticks,
Yeah.
Band-Aids. Like this house had like 4 layers on the walls and 4 to 7 on the floor. It's ridiculous. And so we gutted this one of the studs. This had 8-foot drop ceilings behind me. Then this
Yeah.
whole thing was 17 crank windows. These are all custom.
What?
It goes up about 12, 13 feet in a peak. And, because it had panel and we had commercial grade carpet. This was panel and this was a closet.
That was a closet.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, I mean, this was, so anyway, like, so when you're buying old, you just never know what you're going to get. And so would we have bought it again? We still bought it at a good price. If we would have turned around and sell it, we could have easily made 50 grand, and
Yeah.
then, but then we would have had a tax hit. Could we have made 100? Could we have made less? It just depends. But if I do the math, somewhere between 50, let's just call it 75 or 80, right?
Yeah. I realized I put the house into my LLC. So I asked my accountant kind of after the fact, and I should have talked to him first. He's like, how long have you guys owned it? And I was like, well, she's owned it 10. We've been married. I used it as collateral of other things. So my name is on it too, but I put it in the LLC. He was like, we can make it work, but extra paperwork. He goes, well, just make her part of the LLC and then we may be able to work it. And my wife, she's like, I don't want to be part of nobody's LLC. She doesn't get it. But I was like, but that tax hit.
Title in an LLC.
What's that?
You put the title in an LLC.
Yeah.
As a
Yeah.
sole owner.
Yeah. And I should have had it kept it in my name and just do the business line of credit, but it's okay to just work out. But my accountant, he's like, you can make it work and just basically your capital gains on the business and then your write-offs on your business that you have. He goes, we'll make it work, but you didn't have to do it that way. And I was like, okay. He goes, but it'd been different if you acquired the property, but you already had the property.
Right.
And so I was like, yeah, shucks. What do you
Yeah.
do? You learn, right?
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of different reasons that people are like, I put it in LLC for this, I don't put it in LLC for that. Are you buying other properties? I mean, you know this from a lender. There's just a lot
Yeah.
of back and forth. The loans are particular, the insurance companies are particular, the liability is particular.
The
We do
biggest
have
thing
umbrella policies on our lives.
biggest thing is the insurance now. I just got an LLC application and I usually go back through. She's a broker. So basically, she has a lot of underwriters, different types of insurance companies. And she came back and said that there's really been a drawback after first quarter. And I don't know if it's from the past 2 years of these natural catastrophes that are happening around. Insurance companies are saying, no, 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 you can't just put this in an LLC and because you'll walk away
Yeah,
if you won't get the money. So now they're wanting, they make it so attractable for you as a person in your personal name
right.
versus an LLC. But I do see the insurances companies are saying, some companies won't even lend in West Virginia.
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of odd, but I was like, man, okay. I mean, my money's the same kind of money that if I was living in Virginia.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the house, that house we're at the highest point of elevation on the river and in this area, 22 feet above the water. It's not going to be an issue here for flood.
Right.
The ground might flood because like today we had like all this rain and it's not
Yeah.
flooding, it's like pockets of water, because it has more sand and clay here and there and whatever, whatnot. But they were like, well, the proximity from that house to the water and the age. So like this house, it was really weird. Like this house, because we're here, just like a rental house, you're not there to catch something that might be an issue. You're gonna have people in and out. So we do have a commercial insurance policy on that house. They do require that we rent through an Airbnb, but we try to broker it through a couple people. And like like a go-to lady who says Allstate, but they can broker it through a lot. She couldn't get insurance on this. So I had to go to another person. And then
Yeah.
we got one, and we pay about $250 more annually for that little house than we do for our long-term rental. That's 3 times the size.
Wow.
But that's not on the water. That's over in
Yeah.
Leesburg, so we pay for that one, we pay like 950 and then or whatever, give or take some change. And then the other one pay like 700 consistently on all my long-term rentals. So that's just I mean, that's a good thing to make the phone call and be like, how's this gonna look? Because we almost couldn't get insurance. Legit.
Yeah. And cabins, not everybody lends on cabins. And not a lot of people will loan on a cabin. I mean, I have 50 investors and only maybe 9 of them will, 9 or 10. I was trying to count and I didn't go through all my underwriters that would do it, but our investors and their underwriting guidelines, but it has to be greater than 600 square feet. And because if I want to sell it, that's the other thing. I'm trying to set it up so it can sell if something happens.
Well, yeah.
Um, yeah, greater than 600 square feet. It's got to have if it has a flue, it has to be a certain. The wall has to be a certain thickness.
Mhm.
It just can't be a tin box like you do in a normal house, and a cabin's a little different.
Yeah.
Um, so it's a lot of things are changing, and these are codes that just now kind of coming into effect.
Yeah. Yeah. That one, it was very interesting, like I said, because we rebuilt everything. Like we kept 3 walls. I mean, there's a flat roof and then there's a structured roof over it, but
So your insurance company didn't consider it new construction?
they wouldn't because we had the 3 walls and then the slab was already done.
Yeah,
It was really weird. And then I did what is it called? Is it called like a DSR, DCR,
yeah,
whatever
yes,
that is?
yeah.
And
Debt
so
service coverage
like,
ratio.
yeah, so they were like, well, because I like to be easy when you're self-employed. I'm like, I don't care, such a low amount, and you care about the interest. I
Right.
cared about the simplicity of it. And like I said, it was a POS, you know what I mean? It was like
Yeah.
not cool. And so they were pulling comps based on the current condition, not the future condition. That
Oh,
was interesting. But as always, I know how to pull things through and then because the rental comps were low, that extra in insurance like mattered.
yeah.
It was
Yeah.
really simple. You're like, what do you mean 20 or 30 bucks? But they were looking at the rent number. And because I have history in being a landlord,
Right.
that helps with all of those.
I
And
was
so,
getting ready to say that that factor in if you were renting it out. I mean,
yeah,
it's not a subjective number, but if you need it to be high, you can make it high.
right. Yeah. I mean, I've been a landlord for like 12 years and so they see that. And so I get a little bit of
So
person. Investors are like checkbox. And
I
then
know we're off subject here, but I have an investor that will do a business bank statement loan. So that's the other thing why I wanted to put this in a business, keep it in a business, because business bank statements.
mm,
Uh, and so if I flip 3 properties a year and I make $150,000 on each, well, I can just go get a loan based on that income, that revenue right there. Just business bank statements and 3 deposits, 12-year average amount, and I'm good. So the business bank statements with I think investment properties, I can do 15% or a second home,
yeah,
15% down.
yeah,
Um, yeah, it's and no questions asked. Basically, it's just give me your bank statements. Okay, here's your income. Now you go to underwriting, put your money and done. No taxes.
right. Yeah,
Uh,
yep,
so
yeah,
keep
it's
that
great.
keep that in mind when you're out hunting.
Yeah, yeah, we're quiet for a while. We
Yeah.
we're gonna be quiet for a while and just let things simmer. They take a lot of time. And we have our hands in a couple other pots right now. So I'm like, I'm taking a break, with our lives and you know,
Yeah.
different things that have hit us that always seem to hit us on medical. I'm like,
And,
I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that right now.
and
So,
did I see on Facebook that you guys got married and got engaged?
oh well, we've been engaged. Hold on, I'm gonna start this recording. So, yeah, do you care if I share this out?
I don't care.
Okay. I mean, I feel like, oops, I feel like people,
Yeah.
um, kind of a behind the scenes,
Yeah.
conversation that somebody might be like, let me just listen in on considering an Airbnb, a behind the scenes chat,
Yep. Yeah. No, it's a correct. Multiple streams have. I'm before I retire, I'm trying to have 5 streams of revenue.
That's a good
And
idea.
you
What are
know,
your five?
5 is one flipping properties, and then mortgage loans. I can, that's a job, but uh, it's not hard for me to do.
Right,
Okay, selling real estate. Okay, as a sales agent, market stocks. So options trader doing trading.
right.
And I'm working on the fourth one. I'm or the fifth one. Not sure, but my plan is to have 5.
Well, I mean, once you retire, then you have your IRAs or your SEPs, if you have that, you know,
Yeah, yeah,
then
yeah,
that's once you can draw from it, there's that, and then there's Social Security. So if you have,
yeah.
I mean, if it's around, but you
If
have
it's around, right?
you have all these different things. So that's great. I mean, that's the same thing with us. We've got the stock investments that are not tied up in an IRA, which are
Yeah,
dangerous, but we do it. Then you
yeah,
have your retirement accounts. And then for us, I've got some residual income from businesses coming in and out, that are just like passive income
yeah,
for long-term rentals, and you have short-term rentals, but let's just call that rentals.
yeah.
And I'm not going to sit around and not do something, right? So what
Right.
is
I
we
got to
have,
feel productive. I can never be. I don't think I could be the one to just wake up and it's just like, well, a couple weeks went by, I didn't do nothing. I didn't do anything to generate an income or make a profit on something or work towards something. I don't think I've never been that way. I've always been a hustler. So I don't know. Till they put me in the ground, I think I'll be trying to figure out how to hustle. And it hit me. My fifth one is I have a book. I wrote a book and it's the start of a series. I actually own book two. I haven't
Wow.
published it yet, so that could potentially be my fifth revenue.
There you go.
I have a creative mind, so my wife tells me, she's like, "Why don't you put all these in a book or movie or series, something?" They're pretty good. So
Get it out of your brain. Yeah, I've got some stuff that I've developed that I've productized into a name, and it's built
yeah,
inside of, some system. So I mean, that looks like it's going to be acquired. So when that gets acquired,
nice.
see how long they let me be on a like where I get paid, like, by subscription
Royalties.
or royalties,
Yeah.
and then eventually the CFO would be like, mm, like that. So we'll see how that plays out. But
Yeah.
that's my life changer situation. So we'll see.
Good.
We'll see when that comes to fruition. And until the ink is dry, until it happens, it hasn't happened. But that's the plan.
That's it.
All things point forward. So
That's
cool.
right.
Yep.
Good deal.
Wow. We've got a couple things that pay for themselves, or my long-term rentals have done me well.
That's good.
Yeah.
I'm more in the, I don't know. I'm up front. I'd rather flip it. I don't know about, I've seen too many horror stories on the rentals in this area. I'm sure it's every area, but in this area, too many people got it holding the bag, and you know, and I'm sure you're more in a higher end clientele of a rental area, so it makes it here. The risk doesn't. It's too much of a risk.
Risk.
You know,
Yeah.
the guy that's working at McDonald's or he doesn't care. He doesn't care what happened to the property. He just move on to the next, and it's a $5,000 to $10,000 fix for me, and I don't want to do it. I'll just
Yeah.
rather sell it, be done, and make my money up front.
Move on. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've done flips. They've definitely helped, and I've been in a position where I live transiently. So I've gone and renovated something, and a couple times I've lived in it. So then
Yeah.
2 year, I've done this a couple times, where I lived in it as my primary, and some like the one in Lauderdale, I just made it way, way better.
Right. Yeah.
I bought a new construction. So then I would live in it for 2 years. Then I
Yeah.
would rent it for the 2 years. And then while I was living in it, I would be ready. I would be buying the next one.
Next one.
And then put a renter in there for 2 years. And then somewhere between 4 and 5, I would sell it. So I did that a couple times in a row, and that was nice.
Those are good days. Those are good days when you sell.
That's right. Cool. All right. Stay in
Thank
touch.
you.
Let me know what you decide to do.
I will. I'll let you know, man. I'll check back with you in about a month. I'll give you an update.
All right. Give me an update. I look forward
Thanks.
to it. Cool.
You have a good one. Bye.